which I will be talking about.
Thank you so much, Aditya. Ayush, would you like to go next?
Thanks, Neha. Hello, everyone. This is Ayush. Currently I work as a project manager with Center Square Foundation. CSF mostly works and kind of helps states support in their FLN Foundation Learning and Literacy missions and their programs on EdTech, school governance, and ECCE. I currently support the UP team and currently look into data tech and the other aspect. And more or less, our chatbot, the WhatsApp, which we have built on, is focusing on how do we deliver content and quality resources to teachers and mentors at time. So I think we would be talking about more in detail. And yeah, I think we'll invite.
Shashank?
Yeah.
Go next. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ayush.
Ayush and Sneha. Yeah. Yes, I've been working with Udyam Learning Foundation as the director of product, where the product team specifically blends pedagogy with technology to build scalable learning companions. And at Udyam, we primarily have been working on fostering entrepreneurial mindsets and self-belief in young people. The goal being to empower them to take charge of their own life paths. And we are doing that through curriculum and facilitation training for teachers and continuous support and monitoring as they conduct the program with the students. We are using WhatsApp to provide this support, this continuous support to teachers and students, transforming the chat interface into something which is more personalized, accessible, and like a mentor, and doing that at scale.
Thank you so much, Shashank, for sharing that. Welcome to our webinar today, and thank you so much for taking out time to share with us about your learnings. Before we get started, I would request the audience to quickly rename yourself with your name and your org name. And it would be good to see faces. We are living in digital world. We only have limited spaces to interact with people nowadays. So it would be great if you could turn on your videos and we could, see your faces as well. And last thing is, if you have any questions, please use the chat box to write your questions there. We have Aishwarya from our team who will be helping you answer any kind of questions that you have, and we'll also be taking up questions for the panelist from the chat window. All right, so with that, let's just get started. I'm going to get started with a quick poll. Just 1 second. This poll is just to understand the room better. If you can you see the poll now, Shwarya? Yeah, okay, great.
Yes.
All right. Okay, we'll wait for last second. Okay. I'm gonna end the poll. Okay. So close to 40% of the people we have here are still exploring what a WhatsApp program, exploring WhatsApp for their programs. We do have organizations who are actively running programs, and few of them are looking at scale. So we will be covering all these stages of how the journey from exploration of a WhatsApp chatbot then moves into pilot, and then eventually you scale your program through bot through our questions today. To begin with, let's talk more about exploration. So for that, Aditya, I would like to understand from you. You have an active program currently on women entrepreneurship, right? So I just wanted to understand from you, how did you decide that that's the program that you wanted to, get started with? And what are certain things that you thought before, starting with that program?
Okay. So to start with, our first approach about selecting a WEP as the right program was there was already a very rich content and rich knowledge base that we already had in implementing this. We have trained about more than 50,000 women in these in-person trainings that we have in different locations across India. And some of the selected women get more hand-holding and nurturing support. Apart from that, our expectation was that our support does not end with the in-person workshop that we are giving. It extends more than that. And we saw that opportunity is that it is after the learning or towards the end of the learning of the program that women actually take in the knowledge. Like even for us, when we learn anything new, uh, it takes a little time for us to process and sink in, and the questions come in later. And we don't want the women to feel that it's now too late for them to ask any questions they might have after learning the course content. We have noticed that some women are hesitant to ask a question, thinking that something might be too dumb to ask to the trainer, or they might have any other um, like hesitations with themselves. So this we thought a WhatsApp assistant to be like a non-judgmental place where they can explore all of these ideas and apply into their life or whatever training course content that we have delivered to them. So that was our reason. The second was WhatsApp was the right approach because of uh, we knew that most of the women that we were interacting with had some confidence in using smartphones, and WhatsApp was the most familiar application that they used. But that comes with a caveat. I know so many of the women that are attached to it are also part of SHGs, and they do a lot of functioning of their SHGs through WhatsApp. So that was another point. But it comes with a caveat for us was we realized that it's not used in the similar way. All the women don't use WhatsApp in the same way. Some would prefer text, some prefer voice notes, some know voice typing, some do not know. So, but we knew that WhatsApp is something that we can go forward with. That's why we thought this was the right way to start with. So we've applied this to our program because it has a very rich already program curriculum where women can go and ask questions about business, making financial decisions, making wise financial decisions, government schemes, utilization of digital tools for improving their businesses and overall their lives of how that might affect them. So we tried to create an assistant covering all of these topics where they can go even at 8 p.m. or 11 p.m. or 6 in the morning to ask their questions and get the responses for some of the common questions that we've realized.
Sure. Thanks, Aditya. So what I'm hearing is basically a core program that you've experimented with or have been working at scale, and then a bot basically supplementing it with more learnings around it basically.
Right.
So that's how. Okay, great, thanks for sharing that. Ayush, I wanted to, so CSF primarily works with teachers. I mean, especially your bot is more around teachers and mentors. How did you decide on who would be the first target audience, and how did you decide about what would success look like in the beginning for you, even when you were thinking about this idea of, experimentation or going into an idea of running a bot?
Yeah. Sneha, I think mostly in terms of when we were thinking about like who would be the ideal user for us, would it be student? Would it be like an administrator in a district or somewhere? I think at the end we didn't decide who would be our user. I think the delivery chain did, because at the end of the day in a classroom, if you would want to improve SLO outcomes, the teacher needs to the one who needs to deliver If a student is coming or not coming does not directly impact, because a lot of times students are coming to classroom, but if the teacher has a gap in their capacity in the delivery part of instructionals which they are delivering, I think that's where there is the major gap which exist. And I think that's what we wanted to tap into. And there is positive correlation and significant research around with regards to teacher practices and SLO outcomes, and also mental capacity and capacity building motivation around teachers, which results into SLO outcomes. And that's where we decided we want to stick with teachers as the primary users and add like a mentor layer which support these teachers while they are doing their day-to-day tasks. That's one. I think in terms of what we were initially designing, what success would like initially, because we work closely with system, a lot of times these materials, these textbook workbooks which needs to be there on the first day of a classroom but doesn't reach at time, and that was a problem statement which we are coming with. How do we solve for it? There are other ways that we make sure that printed material and everything start reaching, but in case it's not, what we can substitute it for? I think that was the first thing which came into our head to solve for. And we thought all our teachers already are on WhatsApp. It's like a very informal saying that government runs on WhatsApp, to be frank. I have seen it working in districts, everything, like you get thousands of messages on a WhatsApp group. So I think we started with an idea, if we can be able to deliver content in a very concise format to a teacher, which, because like in a government system, we have a variety of teachers who would be trained, teachers who are shikshamits, who have just maybe qualified a 10th grade or a 12th grade after examination, and be able to cater to them. And with the whole existing content layer we already have with the state, they can access it on the go when they are at home, maybe when they are prepping while coming to school, and maybe then deliver a structured lesson plan, which would essentially move at least some bit in the learning outcome for a student. I think that was the initial idea. And I think initial success for us was like, if we are able to deliver this X content in a very concise format for a teacher to adapt and start take up in the classroom, I think that's what we initially thought is a very good start for us. So yeah.
Thanks, Ayush. Thanks for sharing that. Definitely to keeping some outcome or goal at the center, which is more in line with the core program, is what I'm hearing. Shashank, over to you now. I think we have seen how Udyam Sati has scaled to more than 3.5 lakh students now, right? Just wanted to understand from you, like looking back at your journey, like when you were actually thinking about starting a bot, or the organization was thinking about starting a bot, what were some initial ideas you had? And uh, I mean, ideas that you had before scale became like a goal for you. So what were those thoughts?
Yeah. So I think the main goal for us has always been to be able to provide that continuous quality support, because as part of a program, what happens is teachers come in for a training at the beginning of the year, and our trainers are actually telling them about the specific aspects of the program, but also helping them on facilitation aspects, how to conduct a classroom for that particular topic, how to make sure that students are learning skills rather than rote learning certain aspects of the like topics that they are supposed to work on. But this is something that we have seen while the training happens. When our field observers go visit schools, we've observed that the information or the learnings have not percolated throughout. That's where we realized that we would want to be able to have a way for reaching out to teachers, for teachers to come back to us and get a sense of what is happening on the ground through something. Now, WhatsApp was the very default and very quick choice that way. We had already tried something with WhatsApp earlier in a separate use case, and we've seen that in the kind of demographics that we are working with, having a standalone app requires a massive friction. Like the storage space and all these issues are there. And for us also, we wanted to focus on something that is easy for users to pick up, and that's where we started with WhatsApp. uh, the idea started with something which allows teachers to just share quick check-ins after every lesson, which allows us to also capture progress, monitor progress that way. But also gradually we started looking at how can we reach students, and that's where as part of the program, we had students doing submissions, and we made sure that they were actually doing the submission on the chatbot rather than just sharing something in the classroom and the teacher is taking notes from there. So this allowed us to actually put together all of this as a continuous dashboard, which helps us to monitor, get a pulse of what is happening in the program, and also use that information to feed back into the program design. Our field observers are able to use that information and go back to the field and help guide the teachers wherever certain gaps are identified.
Thanks, Shashank. So what I'm hearing here is basically not just as a program that you're running, but more around getting more feedback from the system, getting more support, and making it a robust communication platform for you, so that more teachers and more students are basically supported. Thanks for sharing that. I think I just wanted to get a shift our gears from how we actually thought about how you thought about launching, but how you thought about getting started, to now thinking about how did you move to the launch, right? And what were certain insights from the first time when you launched the platform, right? So, Ayush, if I can ask you, what are certain aha moments that you had when you launched your chatbot for the first time with your users? We've seen how CSR has been launching their program for almost more than a year now, right? So, what are certain things that you saw and observed in users when you saw them use your product for the first time, or use the platform for the first time? What are certain learnings you saw there?
Yeah, thanks, Neha. I think so. Whenever, like, as because we closely work with system, whenever anything which comes externally, I think it's not taken very well by the system, whoever it is, by teachers or someone else. I think when we were launching this program, our biggest fear were what would happen and how the teachers would take this. Matlab, because we are not launching it at a state level right now. Even though we work at state, we wanted to test waters in one of our pilots in Ghaziabad, which is one of the smallest districts which we work with, just have 450 schools, to be frank. And we wanted to test water, what works, what doesn't work. I think closely working with the DM and the CDO in Ghaziabad and in their leadership. I think one of the aha moments was in terms of we not championing the bot enough, and we seeing the stakeholder doing it more than us. We did create a lot of like toolkits, a lot of videos explaining how do you use chatbot, because any new tech has its own learning arc and learning curve. Teachers are not very familiar with how do you start a chatbot, what are the activation keys, how do you figure out, because at backend you know how the journey of a user looks like. They have not explored it yet, and it would take some time for them to figure it out. I think that's when I saw a lot of our mentors coming in, doing a lot of smaller demo videos, going to schools and explaining each teacher what all exists and how they can access it. I think it took us some time, around a month to or so, and where we did see a lot of teachers turning like very empty random messages to initially moving to going and closing the full loop on the messages. I think that was one learning one, because it would take their own time. Matlab, everyone has their own learning curve, but once people figure out that this is not something external, this is not something pushed on to them, and this is something useful for them, that's where people kind of start playing it with and maybe build their own things onto it. And I think uh, I was visiting one of the classrooms and I saw one of the teachers using the chatbot to do an assessment with a student. And the student was like, give me, ma'am, I'll do it. He has done those two assessments on the chatbot already. And he was like, oh, this I know how to do it. So I think that is something I take back and maybe observe in a lot of visits when I do in districts and in field. So yeah.
Thanks, Ayush, for sharing that. Clipsy will take up the questions towards the end in another 10 minutes. That's okay? Yeah, thanks. Okay, all right. So Aditya, moving on to your journey, right? From the time you thought about, launching the bot, and your bot is live now, and you're directly impacting users through the chatbot. I just wanted to understand, like, when you thought about automating, what are certain things you thought, okay, let's just go ahead and automate this bit first. Maybe let's keep this bit for a longer manual for a longest duration of time, right? How did you decide about what to automate first and what not to automate, and what to keep manual in your on your bot?
So, from as an organization, looking at this aspect, we always thought that the goal was never to automate the maximum number of tasks we could, but it was to automate the right ones would that build trust relations, that build and preserve trust relationships, and keep the governance, a robust governance for the program. So, firstly, the our approach was bottom up. We tried to map in the whole program, right from how the women come to attend the program, what is the smartphone ownership, the digital confidence they have with digital tools, how they interact with the trainers, how trainers resolve their queries, to how the data flows from the trainer back into the governance of the program. So all of this from point A to the end was very important in identifying what aspects to automate. And we focused on aspects that involved repetitive tasks that were simple to start with. Our priority was repetitive tasks, simple, and that still keeps the engine running of the program without really breaking anything down that is already in place, that is working well. Uh, so these were the things that we thought about while automation. So the first layer we thought was some are very common questions from women. So, okay, you've trained me and motivated me to start a business. What should I start? This is my budget. Or how do I decide on the product pricing? Who are my customers? And for that, we also created, with all the robust knowledge that we had before the assistant, we created some database of the top 50 businesses, which we are still building on and adding more businesses onto. But the top popular 50 businesses that we thought the women that we are training were opting for, and fed that and created that knowledge base in place so that the answers could come in from WhatsApp from that codified business state. While doing that, we also thought that human intervention is also necessary while automating. So we did not completely automate. Even while automation, we improved on the program delivery by adding in human escalations. If a woman wants to ask an issue that the bot did not help in resolving, Kiran did not help in resolving, or there was some training feedback that is coming in, or if we want to take some information from the women that we were training in, we thought that this will make it even stronger and build trust in the for our end beneficiaries that we are designing this for. And this was our approach, and we are still automating and prioritizing on the same thing, that uh, trust, confidence, and trust relationships, and confidence building with the women while we automate and keep this as a parallel and supplemental thing to our program.
Thanks, Aditya, for sharing that. It's definitely a plus to hear that keeping the users at the center, keeping a human in the loop, so that you're still, not letting the machine decide
Yes.
about what they would need. Eventually, we have seen places where organizations have experimented and tried to, automate all the things at once, right? And then it's basically a gradual journey, is what I'm hearing from you. Thanks, Aditya. Moving on to you, Shashank. We have seen that. So Udyam has been working with government partnerships, right? So we're currently working with more than 13 states right now, right? So just wanted to understand, like, when you look back at the time when you started with pilots and now, getting it institutionalized with different state bodies, how do you see that journey, right? How does that progress look like? And some tips on working with the government.
Right, right. In fact, the journey from a pilot to actually being institutionalized in a state takes multiple years, and we are seeing that happen because also, in a way, the program that we are running is linked to the academic calendar. So we actually have to wait for an entire year to see the outcomes and then present it to the state governments. One important thing that definitely helps is the program outcomes. So with every implementation of a pilot two and subsequently for the larger program being run, we are the systems, the processes that are involved of registration on the chatbot, the specific steps that teachers have to do, the steps that students have to do, they are integrated in the program design in such a way that teachers have to do weekly or after every lesson they have to do check-ins, and similarly students have to do milestone wise submissions which are more like inputs from students, which help us actually see the progress, the health of the program, which are then in terms of validation, it's also done along with the pre-post test that we have, the endline baseline. Now, along with that, a couple of things that are part of the journey, which definitely are things that state governments have started liking a lot. So usually state governments usually invest heavily in teacher training, but often after the program, after the training, the program fails because teachers return to the classroom and they are struggling whenever there is a new program that is launched. So this is where the introduction of the WhatsApp chatbot, where we've been able to have an always available teaching assistant, has been something that the state governments have also found very, very powerful, which we've seen in some of these cases where the governments have also started using our chatbot as a way to do some standard communication from their end too. So that is something that the governments have been able to see that it is creating a positive impact where teachers are not feeling helpless or clueless in the middle of the program, and it's leading to more completion. And apart from this, I think WhatsApp itself, because we chose this platform, that itself became a huge benefit for governments. Instead of having to install or set up labs or different technology instruments, this became a easy way for governments to actually make sure that a ready to use a kind of an active mentor is available to students and teachers throughout the program. So a few important things that we also try to do here is to create some actionable loops. So anytime we are collecting any kind of data, whether it's these lesson check-ins or student submissions, can this data feed back to our state teams, to our government stakeholders, and also back to students and teachers? So these loops were very important because these are the ways in which we are able to motivate our users to complete the program, complete certain steps, and also make sure that the key gaps, if any, are highlighted to our team so that they can intervene. So this was important. Again, this was included as part of the program design, where after students are submitting, we use AI to generate, to evaluate the submissions and generate actionable feedback on the work done. Similarly, teachers also end up getting reports and seeing summaries of what their students have done, and also key actionable areas for them to step in and help their class wherever they found the class struggling. So these basically are helping the teachers to improve their own offline interventions that way.
So what I'm hearing is basically not just as like a standalone tool, but actually supporting the current implementation of the government and supporting them, going hand in hand with them in supporting these teachers um, is what I'm hearing from you, Shashank. Okay, so now that we've heard from um Aditya, Ayush, and Shashank on how they got started and what are certain challenges they faced and how they are in their journey right now. I just wanted to hear from all of you here as well. I'm going to launch a quick poll. Just wanted to hear if you're exploring WhatsApp or currently in pilot or scale, what is your biggest challenge today? We'll wait for another few seconds. Okay, I am just going to share this poll results with everyone here. We do see a mixed group here. Definitely, a high percentage of people are thinking about sustainability and how to support the bot. And we do have user engagement as the next big bucket in terms of keeping the user engaged on the chatbot, and some are around designing the chatbot. So, okay, so with that, I'm gonna ask a question to you, Shashank, again, actually. Just wanted to understand, so when your program grew, right? How did you, I mean, what are certain changes that you made onto your program to keep it useful at scale, right? Because that would also involve multiple people, would involve multiple stakeholders as well. How did you keep the program useful at scale?
Right, right. So at scale, primarily, as I mentioned, one important task for us was to actually, instead of having a standalone bot separate from the program, we had to integrate it as part of the program journey. That was something, that was a learning that helped us a lot. And gradually, when we started working with more students and teachers, one and the program also grew in scale in terms of the complexities. One important thing for us to also was also to look into the number of let's say I would call it as features or flows that were added into our the bot, which grew in a lot in terms of, let's say, we had submissions, teachers sharing updates, teachers asking for help, students asking for help, access to workbook manuals, different kinds of flows that were there. And one important thing for us to do there was to make sure that we integrate the aspects of the usage of the chatbot and how is that relevant in the program into the teacher manual and student workbooks that go out. So we have a printed student manual, teacher manual and student workbook that goes out to our users. And in that, we are clearly mentioning that these are the tools, these are the things, actions that you need to do, and clearly giving the instructions, making it very user friendly that way, to highlight that this is how this can actually be used as part of the journey. So while we integrated in the journey, we also had to make sure that these are easy to use, easy to access, and so that the journey does not get blocked because of the introduction of technology there. So that was one important learning for us, which working on which helped us resolve a lot of things at scale. Introducing things like quick access menus when we have a lot of features, or increasing the visibility of a particular feature. Instead of remembering 10 different keywords for the users, it was just one keyword which basically brought them to their own chatbot. And beyond that, also redesigning the flows, making sure that these are user friendly, conversational. We also included updated our architecture to handle dynamic routing. So based on the kind of questions that are asked, we would go to different sections of our flows and accordingly identify the intent of the question, of the conversation, and take them generate the response accordingly. We were also looking at edge cases, like if there was some profanity or voice notes were added, how do we handle each of these cases? And gradually, over the last couple of years, we were able to update these cases in the architecture so that our bot right now is able to remember the user's context, handle these edge cases, and provide the right kind of response. We also had to look at seeing where are the possible dropouts in the journey, and for us to be able to know that in a continuous way and not just at the end of the program was important. And we use this information of user behavior into actually creating a bot where we are not just answering queries, but we are also creating context-aware behavioral nudges, based on the data of usage of the engagement. And some of these were done initially in a manual way, and most of these are now getting automated. So along with that, because we are working right now with 13 plus states, one important thing was also to see how can all of this be done in a continuous basis as the programs are running across all the states that the program is running with. So we had to also build a lot of our internal systems in such a way where our state teams who are on the ground, can, based on the phase of the program, based on the inputs that they're getting, they can design the content, the poster or the message that they want to send to our teachers or students, and they are able to put it up on a platform which then connects with the Glyphic platform to send out the messages, as nudges to our users. So some of these things had to be done so that we are able to also scale and make sure that our internal team is also supported along with our users, and they're also able to take actions as and when they need to. As I mentioned earlier, dashboards, all these things were important pieces for us to scale. This is how we were able to make it more useful. And when we first introduced some of these things like the dashboard also, obviously there was resistance, and there were issues in the data that we were able to see. Some of these things were not matching. And then after iterations, now the entire team, not just in-house team, but also like the government stakeholders, rely on the dashboard so much that that becomes a way for them to get a pulse of how the program is running.
Thanks, Shashank, for sharing that. Okay, just last question to Ayush, and then we'll open up the floor for a lot of questions in the chat window as well. Ayush, we saw that organizations are still thinking about, uh, how do they build conversations on the bot that are around, which are user centric and are that helps organization, builds onto the engagement onto the bot as well. So if you can just share one or two pieces of advice on like how do you, or how, from your experience, what are certain things that you did to keep user engagement high, and anything to build a system around the users.
Yeah. I think, Sneha, to be frank, for us, when we were starting with the chatbot at CSF, there are two basic questions. Our idea of the problem statement was very clear in terms of what we would want to deliver, at least to the teacher. That is like a non-negotiable. And that becomes a problem statement, something which everything which we do should revolve around, not just in WhatsApp, but in general at a like a programmatic level. Whatever we do should have an end outcome, and every effort we do, including bot or including anything else, should revolve around that. I think that's where we picked it up as a North Star, which we call at CSF. WhatsApp chatbot, how do we scale it in a way where it is sustainable, where you have user engagement? To be frank, for us, it was not that difficult because our chatbot is not CSF's chatbot. It is something which government at the end owns it. It is by the design named for the program itself, which is the National Mission on Nippon itself. So I think the branding and the salience which we kind of have been able to build with districts, that helps us enable. For 90% of our use cases are about like pull messages. So those are not push messages which we are scheduling and sending it from our end. These are teachers coming in on their own and trying to get these resources, trying to get these information from the chatbot itself. I think just sharing for the users and the participants here, there are two basic ways a person can come in on a chatbot. One is the team directly at Glyphic decides to send a communication to a user, and the other way the user themselves comes on the bot, on the number itself, and engage with them. So most of our use case and the engagement is around teachers coming it on the chatbot and figuring out what they would want to get out of them. And how we have been able to enable it is a lot more stronger comms from senior leadership in districts at state also. So for example, if we are starting a campaign, we make sure that we have a buy-in from the CDO and the DM, and there is a larger comms around it. And then obviously some degree of nudging to teachers happen, but not through WhatsApp, but around the other programs and things we run in a district or in the state. And that's where teachers start figuring out they need to kind of pick it up. In terms of user engagement, if you are able to deliver, to be frank, on the core things which your teacher or which your user would probably need, and you're able to solve for in a very short, like crisper format, which they can understand, I think that would take at least some degree of time, but it would start picking up after a while. Obviously, you will have to test water based on what your user would want, and that would take some iterations for you to figure that out. And I think it's part of an experimentation. What works, what doesn't work is also maybe in X district this works, maybe in Y district this doesn't work. That's what we are also doing. We are making it and scaling it from Ghaziabad to other districts which have different demographics. For example, Ghaziabad is a very urban area. We want to now test it in rural and semi-rural and maybe some aspirational district also, where we might face issues like there is like latency issues or maybe something else which we do not know how we would be taking it up as a challenge and how we would solve for it. But I think just taking that understanding and experimenting of what the user would want and those journeys. So each time, I think one of the habits I have once I log in Glyphic is just to go to some random recent chats and figure out what the user is doing. And that tells me a lot more insight into what I would get to know, maybe asking someone or maybe going on a field visit, because I would know what they are stuck at, what they are able to do, what they are not able to do, and what I need to plan in for in the journey or in my comms or in terms of my resources which I'm delivering, which should help that user at the end of the day. I think that's is you having a clarity of your problem statement, you aligning it with the and surrounding it around your program, and you creating like a salience around the system and the product you are building. I think mixing three of these and experimenting and learning on the go is something which will help organizations, to be frank.
Thanks, Ayush, for sharing that. There's a question for you by Clipsy on the chat window. What was the turnaround time you saw from teachers, like a time grain within 24 hours or more? Any?
So I think two ways I think if Clipsy can also clarify the question. So because most of our teachers are teachers who are coming on the chatbot on their own, so mostly we have seen that around 70 to 80% of those teachers after a while started closing the loop on the flow itself. So the user journey. But when we have kind of run around the campaigns where we have pushed messages for specific occasions, for example, Teachers Day or somewhere else, we have around 90 to 80% of the teacher closing the loop, 70 to 60% closing it within 24 hours. And then obviously, it is also matters in terms of when you are sending a nudge. You should know about the how a teacher's day look like. If I'm sending a nudge to a HM maybe at 11, probably they would not be able to engage because they probably in a space of preparing and making sure the midday meal and everything is ready. So I need to be able to understand my user engagement and their behavior. Most of our nudges, when we have sent it, are around very early in the morning when the school just starts, where the teacher would be still free to pick it up. But most of our engagement has been around teachers coming on their own and starting exploring the chatbot. So I think probably would not be a very right organization to be able to tell you what is a general turnaround time for our teachers to come back on this if you are sending a nudge message. I hope
Thanks.
this answers.
Yeah, thank you, Ayush. It is more to do with the Asha's turnaround time. If a woman has expressed some difficulty or high risk case, what should be the ideal turnaround time of the Asha to come back to that woman to say, Didi, aap aisa karo, aisa karo, aisa karo. But I got a fair understanding. Thank you.
Thanks, Ayush. So there's a question on chatbots, cost, sustainability, and we have seen like NGOs are worried about sustaining a WhatsApp program, right? So, what's one thing that you think you have learned about making it financially and operationally sustainable? Aditya or Shashank, anyone know? Aditya, would
Yeah,
you like?
yeah.
Yes,
Can I take this for a
yes,
start?
please. Yeah.
I'll add on to the poll also. So many people selected scaling user engagement and operational costs as a challenge that they might have. Um, All of this boils down to also a design challenge that comes in, and with scalability. So because scaling is a quality challenge, more people will come in when you are when you give some quality and value added services, and that's how budgeting will also be justified when you have at scale. Um, Apart from that, making it financially sustainable, you can definitely use with WhatsApp, you can use a lot of WhatsApp forms. It helps in also personalizing and giving context for the user. So let's say a woman is asking, how should I price this? Is not a complete question. And that's not how our trainers would answer the question. The trainers would know what business they are doing, what location it is set in, what is the budget that they might have for investing in a new business. And all of this might result in multiple back and forth messages on WhatsApp. But if we create it in a sense that the time when the woman is asking the first question, the bot already knows this background context of what is the business, where is the location, what is the cost, then the turnaround time of the messages is also lesser, and the number of back and forth messages also becomes lesser. That this design not only solves the operational cost problem, but also improves the turnaround time for the end user that wants the value out of it. So this solve multiple challenges is what I think to start with.
Thank you, Aditya. Definitely, like instead of sending three different messages, three marketing messages, how about replacing it with a WhatsApp form, right? How do you make your design lean through forms and asking all questions at once? That's definitely a useful tip. Shashank, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, just a few things. In fact, what Aditya has covered mainly covers this question. A couple of things around, like, how we route the queries. So based on some standard queries, you can actually route them to a rule-based kind of a logic. And then you can decide, okay, these are more complex ones. So for which we might go to the LLM models that we are using at our backend. So apart from that, having more detailed instructions in the flow, making it specifically more easy to understand and read, also reduces the to and fro that happens through messages. So that is something that we've also learned over time. And yeah, in fact, for us also to see which of these pieces can be included as part of the flow design when we are creating the conversations, we're creating some of these flows. We want to actually also make sure that these things are included. And as what I mentioned, wherever there is a lot of data collection happening, we do move to WhatsApp forms. And wherever we are actually using AI to be able to generate responses, providing as much information about the user, about the context, about the stage that the user is in, will help in faster, like arriving at the correct response faster rather than having a lot of to and fro between the user and the bot.
Got it. Thanks, Shashank, and thanks, Aditya, for answering that. Shashank, there's another question on usefulness of the information that's being shared through the bot, and then eventually, are you thinking of moving them from WhatsApp to dedicated app? Looking at the scale that you have, do you have any thoughts there?
Yeah, so as part of a program, the WhatsApp is not the only thing that is there as part of the teacher journey. So as I mentioned, we have dashboards which are there for the stakeholders. But as part of a program, we also realized that we needed a content library. A library of resources generally becomes difficult to access from a WhatsApp kind of an interface, which is more of a conversational interface. So we started by working on a web app which is tied very tightly along with the WhatsApp chatbot. So we have a page where we have listed lesson wise what are the videos or other resources that we have, and from the chatbot, if the teacher is asking for something or a student is asking a question which has a supporting video, we are able to link it directly to the video content on the web app. Similarly, there are other pieces that are there as part of the program journey where students are supposed to, after they've completed the project, they can see their project summarized on the portfolio. They can access other resources like Idea Bank, or teachers are creating teams again, something that requires a lot of administrative pieces, which cannot be done very easily on a WhatsApp interface. So we have a web app which basically handles that case also, where a teacher is able to see the list of students, select from there, do multiple select from there, and then create a team, assign a team mentor, a team leader. Those kind of multiple actions are possible on the web app much easily. So basically for us, we had to do it in such a way where there are some aspects where we had to build the web app. And for us, the main thing also was to not treat them as separate things, because again, for the end user, it just becomes another tool that they have to access. So for us, the entry point is still the chatbot, where through the chatbot, through the specific stages or the actions that they select in the menu, they are able to go to different pieces on the web app. The web app also is available directly, where based on the QR codes and the links that are mentioned on the teacher manual and workbook, our users can directly go to the web app and access resources there too, without having to also sign in on the chatbot. This is another point. Like, a lot of students don't have access to devices, or they are sharing their parents' devices. So even when we are technically working with more than 7 to almost 8 lakh students, we have only around 3.5 lakh students on a chatbot. So this is a major reason why also we had to rebuild our flows, allow students to share their device when they have to do some submissions, or allow a student to use a teacher's device when they are doing their submissions, to be able to ensure that more and more users are completing the program journey.
Thank you, Shashank, for answering that. Any questions from the audience? There are a few, one or two more over the chat. We'll take it up, but anyone wants to unmute and ask questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Vinita.
Hi, Sneha. Yeah. So my
Hello.
quick question is that, so see, I work for Sacha, and we basically work with a lot of students who do not, who have very limited understanding of the technology, right? So when I say this, they don't even know how to download a video on WhatsApp, right? So how do you make such a segment of users more technology friendly, or I don't know how to say it, but like, you can send them audios, you can send them videos, but if they don't even know how to do basic things on WhatsApp, how will the entire flow be completed? Just what the Shashank said. So that question, maybe if somebody can answer.
Okay, can I take this question?
Sure,
This is
Ash,
also
yeah.
related to a question in the chat about the audience not being digitally literate. So there are three aspects to it. As I see, there needs to be a building of digital confidence. When we are designing the chatbot flows even on Glyphic, we need to consider that even if there are buttons that come up with a message, it's not necessary that users will press the button. And accessibility is not just about including more languages. It's also about building that confidence. So even if a person, instead of pressing the button that we expect them to, if they are just typing in, we should still accommodate. If they are sending a voice note instead of typing an answer or a question, we should still accommodate for them. The second aspect to it is obviously what Ayush was mentioning. If we go through the chat, we kind of understand the behaviors of the users and where they're struggling, where they're good at, and how we can improve them. So that is another part where we can build in. And the third aspect is very important that Shashank was also connecting on, that this is not a supplemental or a parallel technology that we are coming in. It has to be woven into the program that we are delivering. Once it becomes a part of the program and within the program bounds, uh, when we accommodate WhatsApp into the program itself, we are training also our end students or women to actually help them on get started on how to use it. And it can be in one or two, three phases. Some parts of the program that is actually being delivered can be done through WhatsApp now, to give them that confidence and improve their engagement. We've seen that when we've woven this into the program, the results have improved a lot better than by keeping it aside as an assistant if somebody wants as an option. So that is the other way we can tackle this challenge. Does that answer your question, Vinita?
Actually, to be honest, we are trying everything that you're saying just now. We, on a daily basis, we look at our chats. In fact, I look at all the chats because I'm a researcher there. So I look at each and every chat to see what kind of pattern that there is coming, right? And we try and resolve that. But my basic question is that if I'm giving phone to a student of class 1 to 5 and they've never seen, okay, so they hold the phone for 20 minutes. And in one of our recent surveys, we realized that all the kids are either playing games or watching shorts on YouTube. 90% of the students have never seen WhatsApp because that's not what their forte is, right? So they don't know how to download WhatsApp videos and everything, and making them work on WhatsApp and learn new things is quite a challenge, you know. But yes, to some extent, you did answer my question. Thank you.
Yeah. Vinita, just to add to that, in fact, that was a question that I had, which is what is the age of the students? And you mentioned there's these grades. So typically, our experience has been working with teenagers where the usage of WhatsApp, of parents' devices also to access these things is slightly higher. But with younger children, I think we would definitely need presence of a facilitator, of an adult around to be able to help them with these things. This could be something that you can also try to see if it can be introduced as part of the journey, maybe the initial stages where you're helping students understand how these things work, and then once they are familiar, students basically pick up technology very fast. Children are very pro technology that way.
True, very
So
true.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you everyone.
Thanks, Vinita, for asking the question. We're almost on time. Any last 1-2 questions?
One question was posted on chat also regarding this data privacy and confidentiality related thing. How are you going to manage this one? Because you are collecting a lot of client related information, right? So how do those things are managed here?
Right. So, Suresh, we basically, any PII that is collected is also at our end as part of the architecture itself is basically blocked for access by anyone. And to basically have access to see names or details or phone numbers, also there is a process where they have to, anyone who needs that information has to request to the data protection officer. Based on the MOUs that have been signed by the government, accordingly the data is shared. So any dashboard that way, that's what I was mentioning here as a response, has information up to the school level. These are the dashboards that are basically accessible to our government stakeholders. Only the people who are going on the ground are school principals. They have information about teachers also through their specific IDs, not just their names, but IDs, or specifically those other attributes which basically help them act on this action on the insight that has been received, and also does not ensures in a way that the data is not misused.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we will close the session for today. Thank you so much, Aditya, Ayush, and Shashank, for joining in today and answering a lot of questions that we had. And thank you for being patient with all the questions that we asked you. All right. With that, I'm just going to close the session today. If you have any questions, please reach out to us over. There's a link on the chat below. If you're looking at starting a chatbot, if you're looking at exploring a bot for your program, there's a link there. Feel free to ping, and we will get started from there. And yeah, if any of the panelists want to say anything before we close.
No, thanks a lot, Sneha. In fact, just to add to that, if there are any questions that the participants have for us to just maybe reach out to Sneha, Ashwarya, and team. We can accordingly, connect and help out with anything.
Sure. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Aditya. Thank you, Ayush. Thank you,
Thank you,
Shashank.
Sneha. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Ashwarya.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Have a great evening.